Imagine this. You're sitting alone in a quiet room. Outside, the world keeps rushing by. But inside, you feel like you're stuck, held down by old wounds, unmet expectations, and a quiet kind of loneliness. You try to fill that void, chatting with someone, scrolling through social media, playing music, but nothing truly brings peace. Why is it that even when we're surrounded by people, we still feel unseen? Why do old hurts still linger, even after so much time has passed? Buddhism teaches this suffering isn't just about what happened to you. It's about how tightly you're still holding on to it. It's like gripping a burning coal. Your hand will only stop hurting when you're willing to let it go. Healing doesn't come from someone else rescuing you. It comes when you learn to stand up like a child learning to walk, on your own shaky legs without waiting for someone to carry you. So let's take a deeper step together into the path of letting go of nurturing mindfulness and of discovering the quiet peace that already lives within you. One, you are already whole from within. There are moments when everything around you is quiet, but inside you still feel empty. Not because you're alone, not because life is too hard, but because you've convinced yourself I'm not enough, not good enough, not strong enough, not lovable enough, not important enough. So you start searching, in someone else's eyes, in someone's approval. A warm hug, a kind word, anyone to show you that you're worthy. But eventually, you realize no one out there can fill that space forever. Yes, they can comfort you for a while. They can remind you of your worth. But if you don't believe it inside yourself, that feeling of enough will always vanish like a shadow, appearing briefly, then gone again. In Buddhism, there's a beautiful and simple truth. Be your own refuge. No one else can do it for you. That doesn't mean you have to be alone. It doesn't mean you don't need others. It means this: the root of your healing, your peace, your sense of worth. It's not out there. It's been inside you all along. Others may love you deeply, but they can only remind you of what you already carry. They can't give it to you. Think about it. When someone praises you, you feel good. But how long does that feeling last? An hour? A day? Then it fades, and suddenly you're thirsty for it again. Like a sip of water, it helps for a moment, but doesn't heal the deeper thirst. That deeper thirst comes from your own self-perception. It comes from the truth that you are enough. Enough to be loved. Enough to be at peace. Enough just to be you, without needing anyone to tell you that. There's a story in the Dhammapada. A man once came to the Buddha complaining that people insulted him and made him feel worthless. The Buddha gently asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The man replied, "To the giver." The Buddha nodded. Then the insult is the same. What others say about you isn't the truth unless you take it into your heart and believe it. And the same goes for compliments. If your self-worth depends on praise or validation, you'll live like a beggar, always needing to be reminded that you matter. But you are not a beggar. You are already whole. What you need is not more approval, but a deeper look within to see the completeness that's always been there. You are like the moon. Whether praised or criticized, whether hidden by clouds or shining bright, its light remains unchanged. so do you. No one can diminish your value, and no one can make you enough if you don't already believe it within yourself. A woman once came to me and said, "I give so much. I try so hard to be kind, but I still don't feel happy." I asked her, "Whose approval are you trying to earn?" She paused, then began to cry. So many of us live like that, using kindness as currency to earn love. But real love doesn't require proof. And you don't have to earn your worth. You just need to remember you are always enough. Remember, children, they don't need anyone to tell them they're cute to laugh freely. They don't wait for permission to play or explore. They don't ask, "Am I worthy?" because they haven't yet learned to doubt themselves. As we grow up, we start forgetting that innocence and begin chasing something we already had. That's why, in Buddhism, spiritual practice isn't about adding more to yourself. It's about peeling things away, letting go of judgment, letting go of comparisons, letting go of the inner critic, so you can return to your original self, pure, open, complete, like a still lake. When it gets muddy, you don't add more clean water. You just let it settle. In the same way, you don't need to become someone. You just need to release what isn't truly you, so your clarity can naturally return. We exhaust ourselves trying to be the best version of ourselves. But maybe the real question is this: what remains in you when everything else fades? When no one is there to applaud? When there are no likes or compliments? That quiet self, that stillness, is the most sacred part of you, and it holds the deepest peace. So instead of asking, "What do I need to do to be loved?" try asking, "What have I forgotten about myself?" Maybe you've forgotten that you were once a carefree child with big dreams and a soft heart. Maybe you've forgotten that you don't need to be perfect to be loved. And maybe, just maybe, what you really need isn't someone else to say, "You're enough," but for you to come home to yourself and whisper it gently, "I am already enough." Because no one else can give you that sense of wholeness. They can love you, they can stand by you, but only you can truly believe you are already full from within. And from that place of inner fullness, real healing begins. Not by collecting more, but by letting go. Not by searching for someone to complete you, but by realizing you were never incomplete. You were never a missing piece waiting to be found. You are the whole picture, a journey, a flowing river that doesn't need validation to keep moving. And when you see yourself this way, when you stop striving to be enough, that's the moment you start truly living. Living as you are, living from within, living fully. 2. Letting go is not coldness. There's a common misunderstanding. Many people think that letting go means avoidance, that it's cold, indifferent, or a way to escape emotions or responsibilities. But in the light of Buddhist wisdom, letting go is the opposite of coldness. It's actually a form of love, deep, non-attached love. A kind of understanding that everything in life comes and goes in its own time by its own causes and conditions. Have you ever held on to a rope so tightly that your fingers turned red? The pain doesn't come from the rope. It comes from how tightly you're gripping it. That's how it is in life. We hold on to people, memories, expectations, and we suffer, not because they leave, but because we don't want to let go. The Buddha said, "One who loves without attachment will never suffer." That kind of love may seem at odds with how most of us were taught to love, with clinging, protecting, wanting the other to stay forever. But awakened love doesn't possess. It gives freedom to others and to ourselves. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. On the contrary, it means you care deeply just without needing to control. It means watching someone you love walk their own path with respect, even if that path no longer walks beside yours. It means recognizing that everything that comes into your life, a relationship, a moment, a blessing, is a temporary gift. And when it leaves, it's like a cloud drifting across the sky. You don't chase it, you don't cling to it, you simply let it pass. There's a beautiful image from Zen tradition. A monk sitting quietly under a tree, watching the clouds pass by. He doesn't try to hold on to them. He simply observes and lets them move on. The mind is just like that. When we stop clinging, we are free. Someone once said to me, "I let go. I stopped contact, deleted the photos, never said their name again. Why does it still hurt?" And the answer is, letting go isn't just an outer action, it's an inner process. It means releasing attachment in your heart, letting go of wishing the past had been different, letting go of waiting for them to come back and say sorry or admit you were right. What causes pain isn't always the person. It's the imagined version of how things should have ended. We hurt over words left unsaid, unfair endings, incomplete stories. But life doesn't always give us closure. It doesn't owe us a perfect explanation. And learning to let go means learning to be okay with that. Buddhism never tells us to suppress emotions. On the contrary, it teaches us to look deeply into our feelings, but not get swept away by them. You can feel sad. You can miss someone. You can cry. But through it all, you can still learn not to cling. Do you know why every sunrise is beautiful? Because it doesn't try to hold on to yesterday's light. It rises, and then it leaves, asking for nothing. Needing no applause. It simply shows up. That's how love becomes pure, when it's not trapped in, should be forever, or mine. It just is. A man once asked the Buddha, "How can I stop suffering from love?" The Buddha replied, "Love as if tomorrow they will no longer be with you, and still be grateful that they once were." That's not pessimistic. It's awake. It's love that values presence more than possession and gratitude more than control. You don't need to become cold to stop hurting. You just need to learn how to love without holding tight. Like the sky doesn't try to keep the birds. Like the river doesn't cling to what's passed through. And one day, you'll realize the things that are truly yours don't stay because you control them. They stay because you've made enough space for them to be themselves. Ask yourself, are you hurting because they changed? Or because you can't accept that they have the right to change? Are you missing a moment from the past? Or just wishing it had lasted longer? Like time was supposed to obey your wishes. When you release the need to control outcomes, your heart begins to soften. You stop battling with it. Should have been this way, or they should have done that. Everything begins to feel right, not because it all worked out, but because you stopped demanding that it should. Some people enter your life just to teach you how to let go. Some memories exist only to remind you of life's fleeting beauty. Some emotions don't need to be fixed, just seen clearly and allowed to pass. In the end, letting go doesn't leave you with less. It leaves you lighter. Lighter to live, to breathe, to love again, without fear of being hurt the same way. Because now you no longer love to possess. You love to understand, to give thanks, to touch life deeply, and to smile, whether it stays or not. You don't need to let go of emotions to find peace. You just need to let go of the belief that you have to hold on to everything that once made you happy. Real happiness isn't in what you keep. It's in the freedom to let everything come and go as it naturally will. And that is not coldness. It is the purest form of love. Unconditional, unattached, free. A love that knows how to let go. 3. Freeing yourself from the grip of praise and criticism. Have you ever wondered why a single compliment can lift your spirits all day, while one harsh comment can keep you up all night? Why does one cold look or offhand remark make you question your entire worth? Maybe it's because you're living as if your heart belongs to someone else. When others lift you up, you feel loved. When they put you down, you feel worthless. But take a look at the sky. It remains unchanged, whether people call it beautiful or gloomy. It doesn't shrink from criticism, nor does it expand from praise. It simply is vast, silent, untouched. In Buddhism, this is called letting go of the 8 worldly winds, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and shame, pleasure and pain. These pairs blow through the mind like wind. The untrained mind gets swept away. The trained mind stands firm. And the awakened one, they smile at the wind, knowing it's just part of the worldly game. Think about it. If your happiness depends entirely on others, then aren't you like a wind chime spinning aimlessly in the breeze? Today they like you. You feel radiant. Tomorrow they ignore you. You feel invisible. But you could be a candle shining from within, needing no wind to glow. There's a passage in the Anguttara Nikaya where the Buddha says, "When others praise or blame you, observe your mind like someone standing on the riverbank, watching the water flow by." Just watch. Don't jump in. That's profound. Words are like flowing water, but we suffer because we dive in. We believe praise is the truth, and blame is a verdict. There was once a Zen master who was slandered and insulted by many. People waited for his anger, but he simply bowed and said, "Thank you for this opportunity to observe my mind." Then he sat in meditation beneath a tree as if nothing had happened. A disciple asked, "Master, aren't you hurt?" He smiled. "If the mind holds no dust, then even strong winds cannot blur the mirror. So how do you keep your mind free of dust? Not by plugging your ears, denying your emotions, or running away, but by seeing clearly. Praise and blame are reflections of others' perspectives, not absolute truths about you. One person calls you genuine, another says fake, but who are you really? You are not either label. You are something deeper, beyond all definitions. You can't control what others say, but you can choose what enters your heart. Like shopping at a market, you don't buy everything that's offered. Some things are useful. Others you leave behind. Words are the same. Some you remember. Others you let fall like autumn leaves. You've probably heard the story of the gift not received. A man once insulted the Buddha, who remained silent. When the man asked why he didn't respond, the Buddha said, "If you offer a gift and the other person doesn't accept it, who does it belong to?" The man replied, "To me." The Buddha smiled. "I did not accept your words. They are still yours." That's the wisdom of letting go. You don't need to become stone to avoid pain. But you can be like still water, reflecting all things, yet unmoved by them. You're not numb, you're steady. And that steadiness comes when you stop needing validation to feel worthy. There's a saying often shared among meditators. When you're quiet, people say you're cold. When you speak, they say you talk too much. When you're kind, some say you're fake. When you're strong, others call you arrogant. So why not just be true to yourself instead of trying to please every opinion? You weren't born to be a product of expectations. You were born to be you, whole, peaceful, even if unseen. And the beautiful thing is, when you stop needing recognition, you become trustworthy. People feel something rare in you. Freedom, the very thing they long for, but haven't found. So, if one day you post a photo and no one likes it, smile and say, "I'm still me." If you speak your truth and no one agrees, ask yourself, was it spoken with honesty? If yes, then nothing more is needed. The greatest freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not letting anything control your inner peace. And the strongest control, praise and blame. Only when you rise above them do you step into true inner freedom. Then, like the sky, you'll remain yourself. Whether someone calls you as bright as sunrise or as dull as a cloudy day, the sky doesn't need approval to exist, and neither do you. 4. Mindfulness is the foundation of all healing. There's something strange about modern life. We live surrounded by noise, yet it's often the voices in our own heads that leave us most restless. We eat but think about work. We walk but worry about tomorrow. We sit alone but get pulled back into stories from the past. No wonder we feel exhausted. It's like we're never truly present in our own lives. In Buddhism, mindfulness isn't something mystical or out of reach. It simply means being fully present with what is happening right now, not drifting into the past, not running into the future. When eating, just eat. When breathing, just breathe. When you're in pain, recognize it. When you're sad, acknowledge it without denial or judgment, just clarity. Once someone asked the Buddha, "Lord, what is the path to end suffering?" His answer was simple: mindfulness. Why? Because most suffering doesn't come from the present moment. It comes from not being present at all. We live inside assumptions, imagined fears, and unresolved memories. But mindfulness shines a light on the now, the only place healing can begin. Have you noticed? When you're eating something delicious, but your mind is stuck on an unfinished email or a stressful conversation, you no longer taste the sweetness. When hugging a loved one, but worrying about what might happen tomorrow, that hug becomes hollow. And we wonder, Why do I always feel like something is missing? It's because we were never fully there. In meditation, the Buddha taught a practice that's beautifully simple. Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. That's it. No need to change the breath or try to do it right. Just notice. Because the moment you realize you're breathing, you return to your body and no longer get swept away by your thoughts. You don't have to be a monk or climb a mountain to find this. Just try stopping right when you're about to rush. Try eating one meal without picking up your phone. Try walking without planning. Try washing dishes like it's the most important thing in the world. It sounds simple, and it is, but that simplicity is powerful enough to pull you out of the fog in your mind. I remember a Zen master once said, "If you're not present while drinking tea, even the finest tea in the world won't taste like anything." It's true. Mindfulness doesn't make life perfect, it makes life visible. And when life becomes clear, you start to know what to let go of, what to keep, and where to go. Someone asked, "How do I heal the wounds of the past?" The answer: by staying in the present. Because when you're fully here, the past loses its power. It becomes memory, not a wound. And there's nothing to fix, because in a mindful moment, your heart is already whole. Picture yourself as a clear glass of water. Every stressful thought is like a drop of ink. If you stir constantly, the water stays murky. But if you set it down and leave it still, the ink settles. The mind is the same. Mindfulness isn't about forcing the mind to be clean. It's about letting everything settle naturally. You can start with the breath. Just a minute. Sit down. Place your hand on your belly and feel the rise and fall. When a thought comes, smile gently. There's another one. And return to the breath. No resistance. Everything comes, everything goes. And in not resisting, you'll find a peace you didn't know you were looking for. The Buddha once said, "Like a drum that sounds when struck, the body responds with feelings when the mind is stirred. But the wise don't chase those feelings, they observe them like passing winds." That's mindfulness. The ability to see without getting caught. Like standing by the river, watching it flow without jumping in. And you'll come to see the things that once hurt you aren't as strong as they seemed. Sadness, anger, disappointment. They're all waves. When you stop thrashing, they pass more quickly than you imagined. Start small. When drinking water, just drink. When you hear a bird, just listen. When you sit, just sit, not trying to hurry through it to get somewhere else. These tiny acts may seem insignificant, but they are how you build a foundation for the deepest healing. Mindfulness isn't one more thing to do. It's a way of being, a way of no longer running, no longer controlling, no longer chasing improvement, but instead realizing in this very moment you already have everything if you are fully present for it. And remember, no one else can do this for you. There is no magic formula to heal overnight. But if every day you give yourself just a few moments to breathe with awareness, to eat with presence, to rest with intention, in time, your mind will become like a still lake, reflecting everything clearly, yet untouched by it. That is the root of all true healing. It doesn't come from the outside. It begins with the awakening inside, when you meet yourself without judgment, without avoidance, just presence and a smile. 5. The story of two monks and a woman. There's a famous Zen story that has been passed down for generations, not because it's long or complex, but because it's so simple that it just might shift the way you look at the burdens you silently carry. The story goes like this. Two monks were on a pilgrimage, walking through villages and across rivers. After a heavy rain, they came upon a wide river with fast-moving water. Standing at the edge was a young woman, clearly distressed. She was afraid to cross, worried she might be swept away. Without hesitation, the older monk gently picked her up and carried her across. Once on the other side, he put her down, and the two monks continued on their way in silence. Hours later, the younger monk couldn't hold back anymore. Frustrated, he blurted out, "Brother, you know we're not supposed to touch women. How could you carry her like that? That goes against everything we've committed to." The older monk smiled softly and said, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" And that's where the story ends. No explanation. Just silence. The kind of silence that invites you to sit with yourself and truly reflect. So, let me ask you, how many women at the riverbank are you still carrying in your heart long after the moment has passed? Maybe it's something someone said 5 years ago, a fight you didn't win, a love that left, a regret you can't seem to let go of, a mistake yours or someone else's that keeps replaying in your mind like a stone in your chest. You might say you've moved on, but every time you think about it, your heart still tightens. Your eyes still sting, and part of you still resents. In Buddhism, this is known as attachment to the past, and it's a burden we choose to carry. No one forces us, but we hold on because part of us believes we have to resolve it before we can be free. But life doesn't always give us neat endings. Not every story comes with closure. Not every wound gets an apology. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on truth or kindness. It means releasing the need to control how things ended. People often ask me, how do I forgive someone who never said sorry? How do I let go of something I still don't understand? How do I move on when my heart is still full of unanswered questions? And I always start with silence. Not because I don't know what to say, but because you need to hear yourself. No one else can untie the knot inside you if you keep holding the rope so tightly. The past may be over, but each time you replay it in your mind, every old word, every old wound you carry that woman again, across weeks, months, even years. You think you're just remembering, but you're actually reliving it. The Buddha once said, no enemy can harm you more than your own clinging to anger and regret. Anger lives in the present, not the past, because you keep it alive. Regret doesn't undo anything. It just drains you quietly. Maybe you say, I can't forget. But forgetting isn't necessary. What matters is not reacting the same way every time the memory surfaces. To look at the past like an old rainstorm. Yes, it was real. Yes, it soaked you. But it's gone now. Your clothes are dry. You don't need to shiver in that cold anymore. So how do we finally put her down? First, by realizing you're still holding on. Just that notice, the heaviness, without blame, without resistance. Like the elder monk who carried the woman across, only as long as necessary, and then released her. Because the heaviest burdens in life are often the ones we don't realize we're still carrying. Next, look deeply into the story, not to excuse it or erase it, but to understand that even pain and unfairness are part of the flowing river of life. Like that rushing water, it moves on, and you can't stand on the shore forever wishing it would come back. Finally, allow yourself to feel light. You don't need an apology to forgive. You don't need a perfect ending to close a chapter. Sometimes freedom begins with simply saying, "This doesn't have to be tidy, so I can be at peace." And if someone once hurt you but never said sorry, maybe it's time to close your eyes, breathe deep, and whisper to your own heart, "I've already put you down." Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. So today, what are you still carrying that you could have put down long ago? Maybe it's time to walk on shoulders a little lighter, heart a little freer. Like that monk moving on in peace, because he knew what's meant to be let go should not be carried any further. 6. Change is the only constant. There's one thing you can count on in this life. Everything changes. Whether you like it or not, you're living inside a current that never stops flowing. Leaves turn color. Clouds shift shape. Rivers never run backward. Our bodies age. Hair grays. People come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Life is always moving. And yet, strangely enough, in a world of constant change, what causes us the most suffering is resisting that change. Have you ever been there? A beautiful relationship begins to fade and you try desperately to hold on, thinking maybe with a little more patience, things will return to how they once were. Or a phase of life ends your youth, your career, a home you loved, and you cling to what was refusing to accept that it's already gone. You whisper to yourself, "If only I could turn back time." But time, as you know, never looks back. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When you truly see this with wisdom, you are freed from suffering. Impermanence isn't some lofty idea. It's the simplest truth present in every breath you take. You can't breathe the same breath twice. Each moment is a birth and a death. And if you don't accept this, you'll always feel like something is slipping away. I once heard someone say, "I'm not afraid of change. I just don't know how to accept it." And that's true for so many of us. We don't hate change. We hate the feeling of losing control that comes with it. We want things to stay just as they are. We want our loved ones to love us forever. We want our bodies to always be strong. We want comfort to stick around. But look at nature. Nothing stays still. Leaves don't stay green. The sky doesn't stay clear. Grass withers, then grows again. Rain comes, then passes, and we humans, we're just a small part of that same universe. Resisting change is like holding on to a fistful of dry sand. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hand, you're able to receive more. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught us to observe impermanence within our own body. When we see that clearly, we begin to loosen our grip on the rigid idea of self, and our mind becomes lighter. There's a story I remember about a young monk who grew deeply attached to a plum tree in the monastery garden. One day, strong winds broke his favorite branch. Heartbroken, he went to the master and asked, "Master, I cared for it every day. Why did it break?" The teacher simply smiled and said, "Because it's a plum branch." Such a simple answer, yet full of wisdom. Everything, no matter how much we cherish it, must follow its own nature. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's awakening. But acceptance doesn't mean you give up. You don't have to be frozen by change. You just need to learn how to move with it instead of fighting upstream, hoping things will go back to what they were. Take something simple as you age. Maybe you lose your youthful looks, but you gain serenity, depth, and compassion that youth could never offer. When a relationship ends, maybe you lose familiarity, but you gain a chance to rediscover yourself, to open up to something new. Change isn't always a loss. It can be a kind of rebirth if you learn to see with eyes unclouded by fear. So, if you're facing change right now, pause, take a breath, and gently ask yourself, what am I holding on to just because I'm afraid of change? You might not have the answer right away, but the moment you're willing to look, that's when freedom begins. And you know what? The beauty of change is that it allows you to become more of who you really are. You can't walk the same path forever and expect to meet a new version of yourself at the end. If you want to live more peacefully, you have to become fluid, like water. Water doesn't argue with shape. It flows around rocks. It falls into valleys. It rises as vapor. It returns as rain. But no matter how its form changes, it never loses its essence. Likewise, your deepest self, your true nature, is not altered by what changes around you. You might lose a job, but not your worth. You might lose someone you love, but not your capacity to love. You might lose the safety you once knew, but not the strength to rise again. Eventually, you'll see suffering doesn't come from change. It comes from resisting change. And when you finally pause, breathe, and say, "Okay, I accept this," something inside you softens, lightens, melts, like the final snowflake dissolving in your hand, not because it was forced to, but because it was time. Change is a law of life, but peace comes from how you flow with that law, with an awakened heart. And that's why, in Buddhism, acceptance isn't surrender. It's the nod of someone who understands life, then walks forward free from attachment. 7. The burning coal story. There's a powerful image from the Buddha's teachings often shared when talking about anger and emotional pain. It's the image of someone holding a burning coal tightly in their hand, ready to throw it at someone else. But in that very moment, who gets burned first? Not the other person, you do. We often believe that anger makes us strong, that it helps us protect ourselves, or keeps others from taking advantage of us. But the truth is, anger and pain, when held too long, don't protect you. They burn you from the inside. A woman once told me, I can't forgive him. He hurt me, and he never even apologized. I asked, how long have you been carrying him in your heart? She looked down, tears in her eyes. 15 years. 15 years is a long time to hold on to a burning coal. It's also long enough to burn away your peace, your health, and your trust in others. The Buddha taught hatred never ends through hatred. Hatred only ends through love. This is an eternal truth. You might find this hard to accept, especially if you've been betrayed, hurt, or ignored. But truth isn't meant to make us comfortable. It's meant to set us free. Imagine driving a car with a sharp piece of metal stuck underneath. The longer you go, the more damage it does. You can keep driving, keep complaining, blaming whoever dropped that metal. Or you can pull over, get out, and remove it. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about stopping the pain, your pain. Even when your anger feels justified, it eventually takes over your heart. It pushes out love, trust, and joy, like trying to breathe in a room full of smoke. And ironically, most people who carry deep anger aren't cruel. They were once deeply loving. The deepest wounds often come from where we opened our hearts the most. But if one painful moment closes your heart forever, who suffers? There's an old story. A man was betrayed by his best friend. Devastated, he visited an old monk and said, "How can I forgive someone who destroyed my faith and friendship?" The monk didn't answer. He handed the man a glass of water and a spoonful of salt. "Stir it and drink." The man sipped it and winced. "It's too salty." Then the monk brought him to a lake, poured the same salt in, and asked him to take a sip. "How does it taste?" "Fresh," the man replied. The monk smiled. The salt didn't change. But when your heart is as small as a glass, every bit of pain will feel overwhelming. But if your heart becomes vast like a lake, pain loses its bitterness. Holding on to pain doesn't make you stronger. It makes your heart smaller, easier to disturb with every word, look, or memory. But as you learn to expand your view to see beyond the wound, one day you'll look back and softly say, "I made it through that." So how do we expand the heart? How do we drop the burning coal? You don't need to force yourself to forgive. Start by being honest with what you feel. Notice the anger. Don't let it lead you. Observe it like a cloud passing in the sky. It has a reason to be there, but it is not you. Slowly return to this understanding. Everyone acts from their own level of awareness. Those who hurt you may have been hurt themselves. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but it frees you from staying trapped in the role of a victim. Because if you remain a victim, who will rescue you? In Buddhism, forgiveness isn't one-sided. It's healing for both the one who was hurt and the one who caused harm. Even if the other person never apologizes, never returns, you can still heal your part, not for them, for you. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or accepting what was wrong. Letting go simply means I don't want to keep suffering anymore. I don't want my heart to ache every time I remember. I don't want this burning coal to scar me any further. So if you're still holding on to it, would you like to keep carrying it? You can set it down, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to know peace doesn't come from being right. Peace comes from no longer needing to burn. 8. True love doesn't need to possess love. Just a four-letter word. And yet, it's one of the biggest sources of both joy and suffering in human life. Not because we don't have enough of it, but because we cling too tightly. We fall in love, and then we want to hold on. We care deeply, and then we want to possess. We fear losing someone, so we try to control. And in doing so, without even realizing it, we turn love, which is supposed to be a beautiful, free-flowing energy, into a burden for both ourselves and the other person. But here's the thing. True love doesn't require possession. It's like the sky embracing the clouds. It holds them gently, with openness and space, and lets them drift away when it's time. The sky never tries to trap the clouds, and because of that, it never loses its beauty, whether the clouds stay or go. The Buddha once said, "When you love someone, love them like a flower blooming, without grasping, without clinging." True love is an act of compassion, not of possession. Yet most of us love like we're holding a bird in our hands, too afraid to let go, too afraid it might fly away. But the tighter we grip, the harder it becomes for love to breathe. And sometimes we succeed in keeping the relationship. But what we're left with is a love that no longer feels alive. I once met a woman in her 50s sitting quietly in a meditation hall, tears rolling down her face. She said, "I love my husband very much. But the more I love him, the more I want him to change. I want him to spend more time with me, to think like me, to live like me. And every time he doesn't, I feel disappointed." I gently asked her, "Do you love him for who he is? Or are you in love with the version of him you created in your mind?" She sat there in silence for a long time. And her story is the story of many of us. It's not that we don't love enough. It's that we love with conditions. We love and expect them to make us happy. We love and expect them to stay the same. We love and hope that everything will go the way we want. But life isn't a blueprint to follow, and people, they're not statues for us to mold. They're rivers in motion. In one sutra, the Buddha describes the four elements of true love: metta, loving kindness, the ability to bring joy to someone; karuna, compassion, the ability to feel their suffering; mudita, joy, the ability to celebrate without envy; upekkha, equanimity, the ability to let go without attachment. Without equanimity, the other elements can become distorted. Loving kindness becomes blind indulgence. Compassion turns into shared suffering. Joy becomes envy. And love becomes a battlefield of expectations. Real love doesn't need a label. It doesn't need daily proof through rigid commitments. It just needs presence, gentle listening, and the freedom for both people to grow, even when their paths don't perfectly align. Look at the sky. It doesn't try to hold on to the beautiful clouds. It doesn't reject the dark storms. It simply welcomes them all and remains open. That's how love should be. You can love someone without needing to control them. You can miss someone without demanding they stay. You can hurt when they leave and still wish them peace from a soft, grateful heart. That's not weakness. That's emotional maturity. Because true love isn't about keeping someone next to you for as long as possible. It's about this: while they are with me, may they feel free to be themselves. And if they go, may I still be whole. So, if you're in love right now, and you catch yourself trying to control, trying to make them understand you, or give you more time, or say what you want to hear, pause. Not because you're wrong, but because you might be unconsciously binding them with the chains of your own fear. And ask yourself, do I love them? Or do I need them to fill a space within me? Real love doesn't ask others to carry the weight of our loneliness or our wounds. Real love invites someone to walk with us through life with freedom, awareness, and gratitude. Like the sky, you can't keep the clouds, but you can be the sky, calm, expansive, and at peace with watching them come and go. And when the clouds disappear, the sky still remains. So how about you? Are you being the sky, or are you still trying to hold the clouds in your hands? If your love is deep enough, you'll let it breathe. And if it's true, it will return like a gentle wind, like warm sunlight, like an embrace that needs no words. You lose nothing by loving without clinging. Because that kind of love is the only kind that can stay without being chained. 9. Letting go of the need to be acknowledged. There's a quiet but powerful need that lives in many of us, the need to be seen, to be acknowledged. Have you ever felt that you share something online and then you keep checking your phone? Did anyone like it? Did anyone comment? And when no one does, that subtle doubt creeps in. Did I say something wrong? Or maybe no one cares. One simple click, or the absence of it, can shake your inner peace. The Buddha once said, "Don't chase praise from others the way the hungry chase rice. Seek peace within yourself." Why? Because when your sense of worth depends on others, you hand them the key to your happiness. When they agree with you, you feel worthy. When they stay silent, you feel invisible. And when they criticize, it can feel like the world is turning against you. But your true worth doesn't come from likes, applause, or recognition. It comes from a deep knowing within you that you are enough even when no one's clapping. Have you ever seen a forest bloom in spring? The flowers still bloom even if no one photographs them. The rain still falls even if no one praises it. The river keeps flowing even if no one cheers. Nature doesn't need to be recognized. It simply lives fully and freely as it is. So why do we, also part of nature, seek so desperately to be validated by others? Someone once told me, "I've tried so hard, but no one notices. It feels pointless." And I asked gently, "If no one knew, would your effort still matter?" She was quiet for a long time. That question isn't easy, because deep down, most of us crave recognition. But if everything we do is just so someone will see it, then we may never truly see ourselves. And so we keep running from one compliment to the next expectation until we're exhausted and still empty. There's a story in the Buddhist texts about a monk who meditated alone in a deep forest. Day after day, no one knew what he was doing. No one praised him. No one recognized him. A villager once asked, "Don't you feel sad that no one knows how hard you're practicing?" The monk smiled. I'm not practicing so others will know. I practice to understand myself, and that is enough. Peacefully, quietly. No need for a spotlight. Today's world often confuses fame with fulfillment. You might have thousands of followers and still feel alone. You might receive hundreds of compliments and still feel empty inside. And you might live a quiet life unnoticed, but feel deeply grounded whole and at peace. You don't have to prove you have worth. You weren't born to impress. You were born to be real. Letting go of the need for recognition doesn't mean you become indifferent or disconnected. It simply means you no longer live your life chasing approval. You walk through the world with quiet strength, doing what's right, speaking what's true, planting seeds of goodness, even if no one applauds. Because applause doesn't make the seed grow. Sunlight and inner nourishment do. And you too, you grow from the light within, not the flash outside. So, if you do something good today and no one sees it smile, that goodness is still part of you. And the most beautiful moments are often the ones no one claps for. Letting go of the need for recognition isn't losing anything. It's returning to the wholeness that's already within you. You don't need anyone's approval to be yourself. The sky doesn't need anyone to confirm it's vast. It simply continues being the sky, and so do you. 10. Look into the root of your pain. There's something many of us tend to do often without realizing it. When pain shows up in our lives, we rush to fix it by cutting off the symptoms, like trimming the leaves of a dying tree without watering the roots. We see sadness, and we distract ourselves with something fun. We feel lonely, and we surround ourselves with people. We feel anxious, and we reach for a self-help book, a podcast, a meditation app. But if we never touch the root of our suffering, all we're doing is applying a fresh coat of paint on a wilting plant, and the tree will still wither from the inside out. The Buddha once said, "It's like being struck by an arrow and then shooting a second arrow into the same wound." When we don't understand suffering, we only make ourselves hurt more. Pain isn't the enemy. It's a signal. Just like yellow leaves are a sign that the roots are thirsty. But instead of tending to the roots, we often focus only on the surface. I once spoke with a man in his 60s. He said to me, "I get angry easily, especially with people I love. I hate that about myself, but I can't seem to stop." I asked him gently, "When you get angry, what are you really angry about?" He thought for a moment. "When someone makes me feel disrespected," so I asked, "And what is it in you that feels so deeply disrespected?" He fell silent, a long pause. Then he sighed and said, Maybe it's because I've never really felt valued since I was a kid." And just like that, we reached the root. You see, anger wasn't the real issue. Anger was a symptom. The root might be fear of being dismissed, old wounds of abandonment, a lifetime of feeling unseen and unloved. It's like someone constantly chasing validation without realizing that the emptiness inside can't be filled by applause. It can only be healed when they learn to truly see themselves. In the Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths, he didn't tell us to just stop suffering. He said, 1, there is suffering. 2, there is a cause. 3, there is an end. 4, and there is a path. In other words, first we must recognize the pain, then look at its cause. Only then can we find the way to heal. The Buddha never pointed us to the fastest path. He pointed us to the right one. And the right path doesn't begin with polishing the leaves. It begins with touching the roots. So, how do you find the root of your own pain? You don't need a degree in psychology. You just need the courage to look honestly. When something triggers you, pause and ask, am I truly upset about what just happened? Or is something deeper being stirred? When you feel hollow or disappointed, ask, is this feeling familiar? Have I carried it before? If you start to see a recurring pattern, that's a sign. That's your root. Often the pain isn't about what someone said today. It's about how their words touched an old wound you've never had the chance to name. And just like with a tree, if it's drying up, don't rush to cut off the leaves. Find the roots. Water there. But to water them, you have to know where they are. You have to kneel down, dig a little, get your hands dirty. The same goes for the mind. Tending to the roots of the heart takes patience and truthfulness. It's not glamorous. It won't give you overnight results. But it's steady, it's real, and it leads to genuine healing. In meditation, there's a practice called inquiry. When a strong emotion arises, don't push it down. Don't judge it. Just sit with it. Breathe gently and ask, where is this coming from? What's underneath this feeling? You might cry. You might tremble. You might remember things you thought you forgot. But in that moment, something beautiful begins to happen. The roots are being watered, and trees only thrive when the roots are healthy. We too only find true peace when we heal from the root up. Not by covering our wounds, not by pretending we're positive, but by turning inward with honesty and compassion, and finally holding ourselves with care. And the best part is you don't have to wait for a perfect moment to begin. You can start today, right now. All it takes is a hand placed gently on your chest, one deep breath, and the whisper, I won't just cut the leaves anymore. I will care for the roots within me. Because that's where healing truly begins. That's where rebirth takes root. 11. Inner silence is the most powerful medicine. There are moments in life when you don't need anyone to say anything. No advice, no wise teachings. You just need silence. Not the kind of silence that comes when there's nothing left to say, but a deeper silence, the kind that happens when your mind stops arguing with itself. When the questions that have no answers finally stop repeating. When your thoughts no longer drag you back to what should have been forgotten. And in that silence, the wound begins to heal. I once met a man in his 70s. He told me that years ago, after a devastating event in his family, he fell into deep despair. Friends tried to comfort him. Doctors prescribed medication. His children took him on trips, but nothing helped. Until one day, he went up to a small monastery in the mountains and simply sat in complete silence. No internet, no talking, no one telling him to cheer up. Just the wind, the soft footsteps of time, and the sound of his own breath. And he said, I don't know why, but after a few days, my heart began to soften. The anger melted, the sadness lost its sharp edges, and I knew I was back. Not because he found an answer, but because he no longer needed one. The Buddha once taught, when the mind is free from illusions and no longer clings to dualities, in that very moment it returns to its pure nature. And that only happens in silence. Have you noticed? Whenever you're hurting, overwhelmed, or lost, your mind gets noisy. You ask yourself, why did they do that to me? I shouldn't have. If only things had been different. You talk to yourself nonstop. But it's not a healing kind of conversation. It's a debate. You argue with your feelings, doubt yourself. Try to convince yourself that you're okay when clearly you're not, and that noise is what keeps the wound from closing. Healing isn't always about doing more. Sometimes healing is about stopping. No more fixing. No more adjusting. No more resisting. Just sitting with yourself and being silent. Silent enough to see clearly. Silent enough to stop reacting. Silent enough to let the wound, already tired from being poked so often, finally rest. In many monasteries, practitioners spend the whole day not speaking. They don't need to explain how I'm feeling today or what I'm thinking. They simply return to each step, each breath, each moment, without words. And the miracle is, the less you say, the more you see. Not others, but yourself. You begin to see the patterns that bring you suffering. You see the reactions that steal your peace. You see how your need for control is what exhausts you. There's an image I love. The mind is like a lake. When you keep throwing stones into it, judgment, expectation, overthinking, the water becomes murky. But if you stop throwing and just sit patiently, the water settles, and your heart, just like that lake, begins to clear. You don't need to forgive right now. You don't need to be strong already. You don't need to get over it the way others say. You just need to stop doing more and sit in silence long enough for your heart to begin healing itself. Silence isn't escape. Silence is courage. It takes courage not to drown your pain in distractions, in explanations, in trying to run away. You sit down, right where it hurts, not to fix it, not to figure it out, but just to be there like a true friend would. And in that unconditional presence, the wound realizes it doesn't need to scream anymore. It doesn't need to prove anything. It's allowed to go quiet, and it begins to heal. Your mind doesn't need to be fixed. It's not broken. It's just tired from all the ways you've been trying to force it to be different. So today, if you can give your mind a gift, not another book, not another quote, not another voice telling you what to do, just silence, a space without words, without demands, without needing to explain anything, just a quiet moment to say I'm here with myself, and that's enough. Sometimes the strongest medicine is when you stop trying and simply breathe in the gentle silence of your own heart. 12. Learn to stand up alone, like a child learning to walk. Have you ever watched a child learn to walk? They take their first steps with complete innocence, not knowing fear, not worrying about what if I fail. They fall. Then they get up, fall again, then get up again. No one teaches them perseverance. No one says, "You've got this, keep going," and they don't need applause every time they fall. Because the instinct to survive and explore is already within them. They just know they have to keep moving. And the beautiful thing is, they don't rise because someone lifts them up. They rise because something deep inside whispers, "Go on." You were born to walk. Sometimes, as adults, we forget this. We fall and wait for someone to pick us up. We hurt and hope someone will soothe the pain. We lose our way and wait for a sign, a hand, a voice to pull us out of the darkness. But the truth is, not everyone will come. Not because people are heartless, but because some journeys are yours alone to walk. Some wounds only you can understand. And sometimes, you must learn to stand back up on your own. The Buddha never said life would be easy. He simply said, be a lamp unto yourself. No one can walk your path for you. No one can carry your karma, untangle your inner chaos. Only you, with your awareness and courage, can keep moving forward, even if your knees are scraped and sore. I once spoke to a man in his 50s, just coming out of a painful divorce. He said, "I don't know how to begin again. I'm used to having someone beside me, used to being reminded, supported. Now, it's just silence, cold." And I asked him, if no one comes to pull you out of that silence, what then? He paused deeply, then quietly said, "Then I guess I have to walk out of it myself." And in that moment, light began to flicker. Not because I helped, but because he saw his own strength. Strength he had all along, only hidden beneath the dust of pain. Standing up alone doesn't mean you have to be lonely. It simply means you stop waiting. Stop waiting for someone to make you feel worthy. Stop waiting for someone to return and explain. Stop waiting for an apology to bring peace. Stop waiting for another life to finally start living. There's an old Zen story. A man falls into a deep pit while walking through the forest. He cries for help, but no one hears. After days of waiting, he realizes no one is coming. So with bloodied hands, grabbing onto roots and rocks, he climbs out. And when he emerges, he's not angry, because in that struggle, he discovered how strong he truly was. And you too. Every time you fall, don't rush to ask, "Who will help me?" Ask, "What am I learning from this fall? Can I get back up?" Even if no one sees me, even if no one claps. Getting back up doesn't need to be dramatic. It can be as simple as cleaning the room you've ignored, cooking a meal for yourself even when you're not feeling joyful, writing down what you feel instead of bottling it up. It's placing one foot on the ground of the present and saying, "I may not go far today, but I won't stay down here." The Buddha said, we each have seeds of awakening strength and self-reliance within us. But are you watering them? Or are you just waiting for rain to come from the outside? No one's going to burst through your door and say, "Hey, you're strong enough now. Get up." The only person who can say that is you. And healing, it doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with a step, even a small one, even a shaky one, as long as it's yours. So if today you're lying there hurt, confused, wrapped in long silence, don't wait. Don't expect someone to rescue you. They might come, they might not. But real strength has never belonged to someone else's hand. It's always been yours. Just like the child who falls No one there to lift them, yet still wobbles back to their feet. You were once that child, and you still are, if only you remember. If only you keep walking. And if you've stayed with me through this story, all the way to these final words, I believe something inside you is quietly waking up. A fire. It doesn't need to blaze. Just don't let it go out. Life can be cold and long, but in every quiet step you take, you're coming home to yourself, stronger, deeper, and more whole than you were yesterday. You are not alone. On this spiritual journey, you are not alone. Many others are also learning to rise in silence, taking steps with their own 2 feet, even if no one sees. If these words touch something in your heart, please consider subscribing to Buddhism Seeds, where every video plants a small seed of wisdom in your mind, so we can grow together in understanding, compassion, and awareness. Don't forget to share with someone who needs this, and leave a comment below. We read and value every word from you. See you in the next video, where light always begins with the smallest step.